But all you want to do as parents is protect them. And so as we can see what's happening in the online space, we know that there's a lot of work to be done there, and we're just happy to be able to be a part of.
Yeah, what has he done with this Netflix series? He's used his mother to sell it.
They've been damn hopeless at everything. So it seems to me they're resorting to becoming basically a version of the royal Kardashians.
It's the conversation people used to whisper about, but now it's out in the open, not just Reddit threads or offhanded podcast banter. We're talking dinner table discussions, media roundups, even serious experts asking one thing: how are Meghan and Harry making all this money? From private jets to multi-million-dollar estates in Montecito, full-time security teams, luxury wardrobes, and elite-level access, nothing about their current lifestyle looks modest. And it certainly doesn't match the tearful story they shared a few years ago. Remember that interview with Oprah? Harry stated they were financially cut off from the royal family. Meghan added that she had to reach back out to old contacts just to start over. It all felt like a dramatic fresh start from nothing. And yet, they didn't just survive. They exploded into wealth instantly. Too much, too fast. After their public separation from the royal family, the world expected Meghan and Harry to face a tough road ahead. Financial uncertainty, reputation rebuilding, and emotional recovery. But what happened instead felt like a carefully timed business launch. Within months, they signed a major content deal with Netflix, one reportedly worth tens of millions. Not long after, they secured an exclusive podcast contract with Spotify, followed by high-priced speaking engagements and book deals. Even merchandise lines, business ventures, and brand partnerships began to quietly appear, some staying under the radar, others making international headlines. This wasn't the slow, difficult climb of two people starting over. It was a rocket-like rise, unexpectedly swift, impressively profitable, and unusually well-organized for people who had, just months prior, claimed to be financially cut off. It's important to note, achieving success after leaving the monarchy isn't suspicious by itself. In today's influencer-driven culture, a recognizable name paired with compelling storytelling can lead to major deals and viral attention. But the speed and scale of the Sussexes' financial comeback has led observers to wonder, how was everything already in place? Building multi-platform contracts, launching global campaigns, negotiating with streaming giants, and coordinating publicity is not something done on a whim. It typically involves legal teams, media consultants, and months of preparation. The question that's beginning to surface is whether some of these moves were lined up long before the public announcement of their royal exit. If true, that timing could change the public's entire understanding of their decision to leave, making it look less like a bold stand and more like a strategic repositioning into global celebrity entrepreneurship. Shadows in the system. The conversation around Meghan and Harry's wealth has now shifted from curiosity to caution, and from speculation to formal examination. According to multiple sources, financial professionals, both in the UK and the United States, have started looking into the complex web of entities, contracts, and payments associated with the couple. These aren't gossip columnists or armchair critics. They're professionals with backgrounds in finance law, tax auditing, and international regulation. Individuals trained to follow the money and examine not just how much is being earned, but how it's being reported, stored, and moved between accounts. One of the concerns being raised is the use of limited liability companies, trusts, or international subsidiaries that may be operating outside of public visibility. These structures are not illegal by nature. In fact, they're common among high net worth individuals. But when used incorrectly or without full disclosure, they can trigger deeper reviews from financial oversight agencies. Another layer of concern involves tax declarations. Meghan and Harry now operate as international figures with income reportedly coming from multiple countries. With this level of cross-border financial activity, there are strict guidelines regarding where money should be declared, how it's reported, and what percentages go toward taxation in each location. When multiple brand deals, personal payments, and charitable donations begin flowing through separate legal entities, the financial ecosystem can become very difficult to track. This complexity is often where inconsistencies are discovered, not necessarily through wrongdoing, but through a lack of proper oversight or mismanagement. There have even been quiet mentions of offshore business accounts or payments being processed through third-party companies. While no public agency has confirmed wrongdoing, the growing interest from financial regulators suggests that, at the very least, the transparency expected of public figures may not be fully met. This isn't about attacking success, it's about ensuring that every transaction, every contract, and every dollar is handled in line with financial standards, especially when the individuals involved are not just celebrities, but also representatives of former royal status and active participants in global philanthropy, branding pain for profit. What makes Meghan and Harry's financial journey especially controversial isn't just the amount of money involved, it's the emotional framework that surrounds it. From the very beginning, their public identity has been tied to personal struggle. Meghan spoke about feeling unsupported, isolated, and misunderstood during her time with the royal family. Harry, too, shared memories of trauma, emotional distress, and a lifelong battle with the expectations placed upon him since childhood. Their joint story, one of stepping away from tradition to protect mental health and family values, captured global attention. And initially, it felt raw, even brave, but over time, that narrative evolved, not just into memoirs and interviews, but into marketable assets. Each emotional experience became a theme. Meghan's battle with the press, Harry's loss and grief, their joint fight against outdated systems. These topics, deeply personal and once positioned as reasons to seek privacy, are now featured as key selling points in high-profile documentaries, podcast segments, and televised specials. While there's nothing wrong with sharing personal truths, critics argue that when every revelation is followed by a business launch, a book promotion, or a new media project, it begins to raise questions. Is this about healing or monetization? The concern isn't just what they're saying, it's how it's being used. Their story has helped position them as global voices for change, but it's also helped drive sales, boost media visibility, and secure multi-million-dollar partnerships. The core issue now is whether they're still telling their story or whether they've started packaging it, because when emotional hardship becomes part of a business model, the line between authenticity and strategy starts to blur, and for many observers, that line has already become difficult to see. The strategy starts to crack. In the early stages of their post-royal journey, Meghan and Harry's moves were seen as bold. They kept public appearances limited, focused on specific causes, and stayed largely under the radar. When they did speak, their words had weight. Their image was carefully managed, their goals seemingly focused. But recently, that strategy has taken a turn, and not necessarily for the better. Red carpet appearances have become more frequent. Exclusive interviews with subtle brand placements are becoming the norm. Social media teases, curated photo shoots, and sponsored content drops have ramped up. Every few weeks, there's a new headline, a new release, or a new initiative, often tied to a cause, but also coinciding with a personal brand expansion. It's starting to look less like a calculated mission and more like a continuous push to stay in the spotlight. Observers note that this shift may be part of a larger attempt to maintain media relevance. In the celebrity world, momentum is everything. Without it, public interest fades, brand value dips, and sponsorship opportunities shrink. And for public figures whose entire business depends on visibility, fading from headlines is not an option. The result? A relentless content cycle, one that feels increasingly focused on maintaining attention rather than telling meaningful stories. The shift has raised red flags, not because media presence is wrong, but because the tone has changed. Instead of quiet strength and purpose-driven engagement, the couple is now being compared to full-time public personalities, less focused on long-term impact and more focused on immediate reach. And Meghan's evolving brand is at the center of this change. Her recent ventures have moved away from advocacy and toward the commercial world, beauty lines, lifestyle brands, and potential entertainment projects. These are not inherently negative shifts, but they stand in stark contrast to the reasons she once gave for stepping back from public life. As this rebranding unfolds, some are asking if the strategy has become reactive instead of intentional, driven more by the pressure to perform than by any personal or philanthropic mission. Meghan's new direction. The Meghan Markle of today looks very different from the one who said she was done with public life. Today, we're seeing wellness ventures, beauty lines, lifestyle content, even talks of a cooking show and luxury fashion collaborations. She's launching multiple ventures at once, but critics are asking whether this is true ambition or just overextension, because in the world of celebrity capitalism, going too wide too fast isn't just risky, it's a flashing red light for investors and regulators. And speaking of regulators, the deep dive begins. Sources now suggest that Meghan and Harry's entire financial structure is under review, not just the money they earn, but how it's routed, who signs the contracts, which countries are involved, and how taxes are reported. There's also growing attention on charitable foundations linked to the couple, not due to proven wrongdoing, but because when philanthropy mixes with profit, transparency becomes essential. Investigators are asking, are charitable donations being redirected to personal projects? Are emotional appeals being used to boost brand awareness and product sales? These questions aren't coming from tabloids. They're coming from government offices and legal experts, the team behind the curtain. Let's talk about who's actually running the show. Meghan and Harry may be the faces, but they're not alone. Behind the scenes are strategists, publicists, managers, and possibly financial experts who know how to navigate complex international money systems. If anything shady did occur, it likely wasn't accidental. It takes planning, structure, and a full team to move money across borders discreetly. That's why this isn't just a celebrity gossip story anymore. It's becoming a full-blown financial case study in modern internet capitalism where fame, royalty, and business collide. The legal clock is ticking. Insiders are now saying that Meghan and Harry's lawyers are quietly preparing for the worst: audits, public disclosures, subpoenas, maybe even depositions. And if this reaches the courtroom, it's no longer about PR spin or polished interviews. It's about facts, bank records, contracts, timelines, and receipts. Paper trails don't lie. Legal experts warn that if any charitable money was funneled into personal ventures, or if financial structures were set up to skirt tax rules, this could turn into a serious legal crisis, not just a reputational one. What happens next? At this point, it's no longer just about headlines, interviews, or curated Instagram moments. Meghan and Harry have become something far bigger and far more complicated than just two people trying to start over. They're now a brand, a machine, a global business built on visibility, personal stories, and the power of emotional connection. But when emotion turns into enterprise and transparency becomes part of the marketing pitch, there's one thing you can't afford to overlook: the truth behind the numbers. Because if the foundation isn't solid, if deals were made too fast, funds weren't properly declared, or charitable efforts blurred into personal gain, then this entire empire could come crashing down. This isn't just a media narrative anymore. It's a legal question, a financial reckoning. And no amount of public goodwill or press management can stop the facts from surfacing if the systems behind them weren't airtight. For Meghan and Harry, the road ahead may lead to redemption, or it may lead to consequences they never saw coming. The spotlight gave them power. Now that same light may expose everything. The only question is, when the cameras stop rolling, what story will the paper trail tell?